That's Ron Keel right here on your classic metal show from his latest release called The Metal Cowboy, and that's Wild Forever. And a guy who's just never slows down, sounds as great as ever, is our good friend Ron Keel. What's going on, Ron?
Man, it is great to be Ron Keel this week, and it's great to be on the Classic Metal Show this evening. Wendell, Chris, thank you guys for having me on this evening and to help promote my new projects, and it's going fantastic. I've got a lot of stories to tell. It has been a crazy week.
Right.
And, just to hear you say that when you bring me on, you said, that's Ron Keel. Instead of, in the past, and I'm very proud of my projects, the first time I was on your show 12 years ago, you would say, that's Iron Horse, featuring Ron Keel. And then a few years ago when we had the Streets of Rock and Roll album, you would say, that's Keel. And now to be on your show and to be listening as you say, that's Ron Keel. And that's really very rewarding for me at this stage of my career. It's the first time I've ever had a rock solo album, as many people know. I did an acoustic solo album 10 years ago, but that's one side of me. That's kind of a side view. And this one here is the whole thing: heart, soul, body, lungs, liver, kidneys, and tongue. And it's the first time I've ever had an album that says all songs written by Ron Keel. And just to go through that this week has been an amazing process. We've done this with my own company, Wild West Media Productions, very much a hands-on effort. That's what I want to focus on throughout the course of the conversation with you. I've got an interesting perspective on what it's like in our business, music, entertainment, today, at this day and age, with how to, really, it's a unique take on it. And first of all, before we even get started, I got to thank all of the fans that have bought the thing this week and have been a part of the crowdfunding campaign on Pledge Music the last 3 months. Some of these people are incredible, man. They spent hundreds of dollars months ago waiting for this week, kind of like I have, and I'm glad they've got the CD and the book in their hands now, and hopefully they're enjoying it.
Well, Ron, is this a practice session? Is this a practice speech for your Grammy Award next year, or what's the deal?
Man, this is just me talking the rock and rocking the talk. As you know, I've had my own radio show for a couple of years now, and I've had a lot of practice. I've learned from the best by listening to your show, and I think I've got something to say. I've just learned to make these interviews count. Over the course of writing the book, my new autobiography, EVEN KEEL, Life on the Streets of Rock and Roll, I read over all of the interviews I did in the 80s, looking for quotes, looking for my perspective. What was I saying back then? What was I feeling? What was I thinking? A lot of it was crap, and when I get an opportunity now to come on a show like yours, I'm going to make every word count. I'm going to entertain people. I'm going to inform people. I'm going to, these interviews, I realize how important they are. I have so many pages of crap back. Who are your influences? Well, when I was growing up, I listened to the Beatles and the Stones. Screw that. We got something to say. We got something to play. Let's do it.
Sure. Well, Ron, where do you want to start? You want to start with the book? You want to start with the disc?
Well, they're both. They're kind of hand in hand. They both were released this week, the new album Metal Cowboy and my autobiography, EVEN KEEL, Life on the Streets of Rock and Roll, and both are very autobiographical. Of course, it really has to start with the music. Okay. Because without the music, without that creative spark to be who I am, there wouldn't be a book. There wouldn't be your radio show. There wouldn't be concerts. It all has to start with the music. So that really has been what's re-energized me these past few years, was being creative, writing songs, creating this music. That enhances everything else that I do in terms of how I do business, how I roll on the radio. Everything that I do stems from the music. So let's start there, if you will.
All right. Well, Ron, as you know, and the audience probably doesn't know, but you and I correspond quite a bit. We at least 2-3 times a week, I think we're up to at this point. And
we do, and I do consider you. I mean, we've never met, but I don't think I consider you a true friend online and in entertainment, and also in our political views and how we feel about this nation and the state of the world.
Absolutely. Now, one of the things that I know from when you were recording Metal Cowboy is that I would get an email from you at like 2 o'clock in the morning, And then I would respond to it, and then you would get a response back to me by like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I know at least once I called you out on it, and you were like, dude, I can't sleep. I've got all these ideas going, and I'm recording, and I'm writing, and I'm, working this out and that out. You were constantly, more than anybody I've seen in recent memory, you were constantly working on this. Was it just that you had so many ideas going on, or what, that you could not put it down?
Well, Chris, and I appreciate that, and it's a true story, and I'll expand upon that. And something I'm very proud of is that work ethic, which I speak about in life and my conversations with friends in the book. But the fact is, I'm just like a lot of other guys these days. I am an American small business owner, and it is getting harder and harder to succeed. You have got to work 5 times as hard to achieve 1/5 as much. That is the truth.
Yep.
And I'm not the only guy who runs his own business that's up all night. We take naps, man. We can go to bed at 2, get up at 5. That's your nap. It's not even a good night's sleep. That's what we have to do in order to just make ends meet in the business, in not only my business, but a lot of small businesses, man. You got to be married to it. So sure. I am proud of the fact that I work my ass off, but I know I'm not the only one doing it.
No, definitely not, man. But it seems, though, that for you, Metal Cowboy as a project, and I'm not saying that you didn't have the passion for everything that you've ever done, but it just seemed that you, for some reason, had so much more energy and focus and drive to make everything absolutely perfect. Is it, I guess I'll start there. Why so much drive for this one versus maybe some of the others?
Well, because we've set the bar pretty high, and I have to please myself at the end of the day. I had no choice but to create an album that Ron Keel, on February 1st, 2014, or February 1st, 2024, Ron Keel is going to listen to this record. He's going to love it. He's going to be happy with it. He's going to be proud of it. That is my primary goal. And I've set the bar pretty high because I've done some stuff in my career that I'm damn proud of, such as that last Keel album, Streets of Rock and Roll. I mean, that's a great sounding album with some of the best songs of my entire career. For my first solo album at this stage in the game in my career, it had to be great. And I'm not saying everybody's going to love it, everybody's going to think it's great, but I at least have to love it. I have to have something at the end of the day that I could know it was worth all that hard work. Why are you going to work so hard on something if you're not going to love it and be proud of it? I do understand that even if we sold 5 million of them, that means there are billions of people who don't know who you are or don't give a damn.
Right.
So, and I get that, but I got to love it. I got to be proud of it. The only way I could, and it wasn't that I was so anal about every detail. I let the players play, man. And we didn't go in the studio. Man, it took me 45 minutes maybe for a vocal track. We'd spend a lot of time on the rhythm guitars, making sure that the music's tight and all that. But most of these vocals on this record, first of all, were, first take, kind of just go in, sing it, feel it, kind of just have fun with it. And at the end of the day, go, man, that felt like a take to me. Let's keep it. And it took maybe 45 minutes for a lead vocal track. And I'm also extremely proud of the fact that even though I went into the Hideout Studios under the Kevin Churko school, I mean, Churko does, Five Finger Death Punch and everything from that to the Shania Twain stuff. These guys are known for being very anal, very meticulous, and very time-consuming. And it did. It took 5 months for the final stretch of the sessions from June to November. But sure. I got them to go along with my philosophy of not fixing everything. First of all, they have this thing that normally they do. They put the drums through what's called a beat doctor. And it takes your files and it straightens out all the drum tracks. Everything that's maybe a little to the left or the right of the beat straightens it all up so it's in perfect time. They put the voice through all these processors that make sure that every note is in perfect tune. We didn't do any of that. And I'm really proud that I got them convinced, hey, man, let's just keep it natural. Let's keep it organic. Let's let the music breathe. Let it live. There's not one note on this album for the first time in about 10 years that we didn't use any vocal tuning. No auto-tune, none of that BS. Right. And, yeah, there's some spots where you can hear some pitchy stuff, man. It's a little flat here, a little sharp there. I'm damn proud of that. So it's So it wasn't like I was working so hard to make everything so perfect and right. It's just a full-time job running a business, writing a book,
Right.
performing, a couple hundred shows every year, working at Rock and Roll Fantasy Camp, doing all the different gigs that I do. So, it is a full-time job, and I have to work 5 times as hard to make 1/5 as much money as we would make 20 years ago.
Right, sure. Well, Ron, talk about the players a little bit, because you brought in some interesting people to play on the record. I'm assuming that most of them are probably friends from being in the business this long. But talk a little bit about who you actually had on the record.
Absolutely, and it really starts with that foundation of Mike Vanderheuvel from Y&T on the drums. And this has been brewing for years now. The thought that maybe I would do another solo album or do some type of project at some point. And Mike and I developed a strong friendship on tour together when we did the UK tour. I was the opening act for Y&T in 2009 in Scotland, Wales, and England. And we just got to be really good friends. And he said, man, we should make an album together. And it kind of stuck in my head the whole time. And I play with Y&T a lot. I do a lot of gigs with those guys. A couple coming up next month that I want to talk about as well. But the way Vanderheuvel plays is with a lot of power, like a good heavy rock drummer should, but he's got these chops, these little fills and finesse, and just a certain style that I thought would really fit this music. Once I started writing the songs, there really was never another choice for drums other than Mike. And I was adamant that whoever plays drums on the record has to do the whole entire record. I don't believe in having different guest drummers, and I've got a lot of good friends, man. Dwayne Miller from Keel, one of my best friends in the world, and one of the best drummers in the business. But I think it's important for an album to have that solid foundation. It's consistent. Every song was recorded by the same guy, the same drum kit, the same set of microphones, the same room, the same approach, the same theme. And we would take it one song at a time and kind of build it together, and that foundation was so important to these songs and this music. And then we started adding the sauce. On top of that, Frank Hannon, who's been somebody who was involved in the project from day one. In fact, the oldest song on the record, and this is how this happened, not Evil, Wicked, Mean, and Nasty, which is really old, but I mean the oldest new song on Metal Cowboy is a heavy tune called The Last Ride. And I just happened to be writing that song with a Frank Hannon guitar pick. And I had Frankie on the radio show, man. I said, hey, Frank, I'm using your guitar pick on this song. I decided that every song for the sessions, I would take that same pick, whatever pick it was that I wrote the song with, use it through the entire recording process, the writing, the home demos, the final recording. So I used the same guitar pick on every tune, kind of like this superstitious kind of thing, like a football player would wear 2 different color socks or whatever. And I said, Frank, man, at least I got your guitar pick on the record. He says, well, man, you want me on the record? I'd love to do it. I said, okay, hell yeah. And Frank ended up doing all the slide guitar, all that cool southern rock stuff on the song you just played. Wild Forever, for instance. That's all Frank Hannon from Tesla. And he brings that love of southern rock. Really, I mean, he's perfect for the tunes. Those guitar parts that Frank did were the only thing in the session that I wasn't present for. He just sent me the files. I sent him the song. He'd send me the solos back. It just worked every time.
Well, excellent, Ron. In this day and age, you're an old school guy. I mean, you were around during the height of the 80s, and you understand how precious studio time was and how expensive it was back then. And now that you're kind of a self-financed guy, I'm assuming this is the case. How does recording in a studio differ today than it did, say, 20, 25 years ago when you were using 3/4-inch tape and expensive, recording, processes as opposed to using like a Pro Tools these days and whatnot? And, how does a Ron Keel, afford to make such a quality record?
Well, you treat it like the same. I mean, I still treat it old school. I only know one way to make albums, but you use that technology to your advantage in terms of just how long it takes to rewind. Back in the day, you'd be cutting a track, and you do a vocal, you do a verse, and a chorus, then you want to go back and listen to it. Well, you have to rewind back to that point, and you lose your mojo, you lose your vibe. By the time the engineer gets that take back to the mark, you forgot, what the hell did I say? What did I sing? Nowadays, click, and you're there. And, man, give me another shot at that. No, I want that word right there. Hit it, go. And you're done, man. You're recording. That makes a big difference. In terms of finances, it's actually gotten cheaper because anybody with an iPad or a hard drive can make records. I mean, the drums were done in, Vanderhill Studio in San Jose. Nothing fancy, but great mics, great kit, great player. But Pro Tools, just a regular. It's not. Of course, the software is expensive. If you have to buy Pro Tools software, I think you're spending like $18,000 to get the max deal. But the thing that economically has alarmed me about this process of doing it myself is just this week. Not the recording process, but the actual servicing that product. And of course, it's my luck. My album comes out on January 28th. Well, the U.S. government, the Postal Service, decides to raise postage rates on January 26th. And, my God, some of these people, I had a guy who spent $32 to have a CD overnighted to him the day it was released, which I think is pretty cool, man. But, the postage rates are incredible. To send a package to Europe, and we got a lot of European fans, man. We got fans all over the world that we've been shipping to all week, and I've looked at these numbers going, my God, they're spending more for shipping than they are for the disc.
Right.
And that to me is it's a reflection of it's the government, and if we can say that, I'm sure we can on your show. But they put so many taxes, fees, regulations. It's almost impossible to do business these days, man. But that has been economically. The money we spent, we had a lot of orders, man. First of all, once again, I want to thank the fans who've really embraced this project and spent their hard-earned cash for it. Nothing means more to me than that. And to see them, with the Pledge Music campaign that we did, for instance, we kicked it off on September 2nd, and there were people, September 3rd, 4th. This is last year. They're spending hundreds of dollars. They want a T-shirt, a CD, and a book. The book wasn't even written at the time, but they're already buying it. And they're waiting months. I don't know that I would do that for any artist. I mean, I love my Scorpions. I love my Priest. I love my AC/DC. I love my Ronnie Dunn. But, man, I'm not buying their stuff 3 months in advance. I'll wait till it comes out and I'll buy it. So these fans that really got on board early have meant the world to me, and it's another reason why I've enjoyed the hands-on process of being a part of this with the people.
Excellent. Well, Ron, I want to go back just a little bit, because when we had you on the show last time, you were releasing the Streets of Rock and Roll release with the band Keel, which, that was a long time in coming. Keel as a band or entity had been apart for the longest time, and you guys, did your reunion and you play some shows through the summer and some festivals and things like that. Was the reunion and the release of a new Keel disc everything that you had hoped it would be, or did it fall short, or did it exceed your expectations, or how give me your viewpoint on that?
My take, and we're celebrating, at the time, we were celebrating our 25th anniversary. This year, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary. So it is another 5 years. It's another milestone, and beyond a shadow of a doubt, the last 5 years, being the lead singer in Keel, being reunited with those boys and making that record and touring the world, it has by far exceeded my expectations. In terms of, first of all, the music itself. In the studio, on record, that Streets of Rock and Roll album is, in my opinion, the best work we ever did. And the cool thing was, when we reunited, we had no intention of creating new music. We just wanted to play some shows and celebrate our 25th anniversary with each other and with our fans. That music was very natural, just poured out of us. It was not a piece of merchandise or something we even thought we would even attempt. And not only that music on that album, but the music that we've played together on stage across the world the last 5 years at events like M3 and the Monsters of Rock cruise and our European tours. And musically, the band delivers the goods, which is all you can hope that after 30 years, man, that's all you can hope for. Man, we still kick ass. guys, we are truly brothers in blood, and that to me is one of the most valuable aspects of that Keel reunion. We're celebrating it still. We don't do a lot of shows just because it's very expensive. We're not going to bring our price down to match some of these bottom feeders that are out there playing for peanuts. We just can't afford to, for one thing, plus it's a matter of pride. But when a big event like M3 steps up to the plate and offers Keel a main stage slot on April 26th, we're going to be there. And we're so excited to be back on that bill at M3 this year on April 26th. It's going to be a great way to celebrate our 30th, and I lost count, our 435th anniversary. But no, 30 years, man. 30 years, and now you're going to start to see the Facebook posts as I go online. April 7th, I think, or was it the 27th? I don't know. I have to read my book. It's like 30 years exactly since the very first Keel gig ever. So a lot of milestones now as we get to that 30-year mark. Did it last year with Steeler. I would post, this was our expense report from November 11th, 1983, and got to relive Steeler's 30th anniversary last year. This year it's Keel's turn.
Excellent. Well, Ron, let's talk a little bit about the book, Even Keel. As you're well aware, and everybody listening, I'm sure, is well aware, I just did a very similar thing, writing something very autobiographical and very personal, just as you have done. And, right off the bat, I got to ask you the same question that I've been fighting in every interview that I've done so far. How uncomfortable and difficult was it for you to share a lot of your private, thoughts and things that have happened to you that were not meant for the public in a public forum like your book?
Well, that's a great question, Chris, and how uncomfortable that may be. Now, I don't know about your writing experience. I can only speak about mine, but when I was writing it, it was fun. I was taking that ride again. I was reliving my life and just kind of telling it like I saw it. But now that it's out, it's been out, 4 days, and people are reading it and commenting on it. That's the difference. Hey, you're not supposed to read that. That's my private business. It's kind of weird. It is weird now that people are. I never expected to let these people know me to that extent. I'm a pretty private guy. I value those parts of me that nobody ever sees. But you can't write a book without exposing some of those parts, man. It just wouldn't be honest. It wouldn't be true. And to be honest with you, I held a lot of stuff back. One of the comments that I'm getting now from a lot of people is that, man, there's a lot of sex and drugs in this book. And that was exactly not my intention. I said I purposely, I almost apologized in the introduction. Hey, I'm sorry, but there's no visits to rehab. There's no interventions. There's no overdoses. There's none of that in my story. This is about the music and the journey and the places I've been and what I've experienced. And I held back a lot about the sex and drugs that I thought was maybe not as important, because I didn't want my story to be about that. But apparently I left a lot in, too. So, I'm getting a lot of commentary about that. And there's no way you can do this without pissing some people off. And there's going to be, some repercussions. It's just the way it is. But I don't throw anybody under the bus. It's not my place, whether it's Ingve or my ex-wives or my bandmate. Anybody who cheated on their spouse, anybody who did drugs, anybody who was an idiot or an asshole or a dick, that's their business. The only person I throw under the bus in this book is the author, because I cop to all the crap that I did, and well, not all of it, but I guess a fair share. And that honesty, I think, is important. The times when I was scared, the times when I was uncomfortable, like the first time I heard myself on the radio. It should be one of those high points of your career, like one of those movie moments. Hey, I'm on the radio! And you jump and you dance around the house, you take the radio, and you run down the street, and you're so excited. Well, mine was not like that, man. It was an embarrassing moment, because the first song that I ever recorded was a piece of shit vocal. Just to be honest about it, I had no idea what I was doing, and all of a sudden it's a huge hit on local radio. and I couldn't get away from it. And I was absolutely devastated that, wow, that's how I sound. And it hurt, and it made me very uncomfortable. And I admit to that in the book, and I talk about that vocal journey of how I turned that guy into the singer I'd always wanted to be.
Sure. Well, Ron, another thing that I know, it's weird that me and you, because I, talk to you so much, and we're sort of on the same time pattern with your book and my book, literally within a month of each other, and I'm learning too. This is my first book as well.
I'm very, very proud of you. Oh,
thanks.
Go ahead. I interrupted you.
But the thing that I'm finding more and more recently, and I'm gonna guess that you may not even be there yet, but in the next month you'll start seeing it, is how many people start coming up to you and remembering your stories that you've told in the book, and you kind of don't remember. For you it's life. It's not necessarily just pages in the book, so it almost comes off as kind of weird. Like, hey, how do you know that?
Exactly. No, I'm getting that already. You're right. I am getting that. And especially in the final phase of the book, I spent a long time on the early years of my development. I spent a fair amount of time on the Keel days, those Hollywood days, and because I know that's what everybody wants to hear about. I did touch on the later aspects of my career, and I realized I was getting way past the projected word count. I wanted 100,000 words. I had twice that. So I had to start cutting stuff out, cutting stuff down. I really wanted a lot about singing. I wanted to have a whole chapter on the voice and how I approach singing and how I feel about, basically a voice lesson on paper, how I warm up. Here's my technique. Here's what I do. And also the same thing about songwriting. I wanted to kind of take the reader through the process of how I take an embryo of an idea and turn it into a finished song. And those parts actually were so strong that I thought, man, this could be a book of its own. I could write a songwriting/singing handbook at some point, so let's just save this stuff for later.
Sure, Ron. Well, Ron, I'm in the planning stages of writing my book. The Classic Metal Show will be celebrating 20 years in the January of 2016, so
wow.
I would like to have my book coincide with my 20th anniversary here on the show. So,
awesome.
I got a few little stories to tell myself, so I'm probably going to glean something from your book as well as Chris's book, and anybody who's written some kind of an autobiography, especially if you're in some kind of a form of being an entertainer. And, people find that stuff fascinating for whatever reason. I guess it's just a way of living vicariously through somebody else's experience. But anyway, congratulations on the book. Congratulations on the new Ron Keel CD, the Metal Cowboy, and your radio show, and the 30th anniversary of Keel, and all the stuff you got going on. So here's your opportunity, Ron. Where can everybody find out about Ron Keel and your myriad of enterprises?
That's exactly what I wanted to get at right now. And, this is I appreciate you asking, because it is alarming to me in this day and age, with all of these sources of information, Facebook and Twitter and all the various other social media and websites, people aren't getting any information now. Back in the day, you only had one way to listen to the Classic Metal Show. Now you've got Pit Riff and Classic Metal Show, all these other links, the Twitter link, the same thing about Ron Keel. I'm getting inundated with messages, whether it's by any of these social media. Where do we get the record? I thought you had an album come out. How do I find it? Where is it? Just go to ronkeel.com. Everything stems from there, and all the other sites are ancillary or tertiary points. And these are all extensions of that, but you got to have a primary hub online where people can find you. It's ronkeel.com. Go there. You can listen to the tunes. You can get the book on various sources. My web store, Amazon.com. You can get the music on iTunes or through my web store. Get an autographed copy. It's all that. You got to have that one central hub. I can't believe how many messages I'm getting every day. Hey, is your record still on sale? I mean, it just came out 4 days ago. I blame that on the technology, not on the people. It's not the people that are dumb. It's all this high-tech crap that's dumbing us down. Back in the day, if you wanted to see rock and roll on TV, You had Don Kirshner's rock concert, American Bandstand, Midnight Special. That's about it. You know, you wanted to read about it. You had Circus, you had Hit Parade, you had Cream. And therefore, when MTV came out and they would show the Right to Rock video 3 times a day, then you'd sell 100,000 albums that day because 100,000 people saw you that day. Now you're lucky if 100 people see you.
Right.
So I'm like I said, I'm not blaming the people. I'm blaming the technology and the government for dumbing us down or trying to. It's up to us to fight back. But please, I encourage all your listeners to go to ronkeel.com, hang out with me online. There you can hang out on Facebook and Twitter and all the other stuff. But ronkeel.com is my house, and you're welcome in there anytime.
Excellent, Ron. Well, Ron, again, congratulations. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here on the Classic Metal Show. You could fit us in somewhere along on the rungs of that ladder there, you know. So I mean,
absolutely.
But
I appreciate the opportunity. You guys said I've been looking forward to this, and you know, this is my first radio interview since the album release, and I wouldn't have it any other way.
Excellent. Well, we appreciate that, Ron, and we appreciate your support. And I personally feel very fortunate to have a friend like yourself in the music business, and that's one of the reasons I do this show for as long as I have, is because I enjoy it so much. So
I know that. I know that. I appreciate you guys, and I enjoy what you do as well. And I hope we'll see each other again soon.
All right, Ron. Well,
Thanks,
since you got the new CD out, we always let the artist pick a closing song from the new release and maybe tell us a story about it.
Well, this song, and you guys can play explicit lyrics, right? I mean,
oh yeah, absolutely. Come on, Ron.
Yeah,
you know
us. You
us.
cuss on the air all the time. And I said at the beginning of the interview how proud I was to have an album where you say, "Well, this is Ron Keel," because I haven't ever had that. Also, this is the first album that I've ever had explicit lyrics on, which is pretty cool. It's kind of an interesting fact after all my run-ins with the PMRC and all the controversy I've had to endure. But the song that I'd like to play is called "My Bad." It's also it's the one that has the explicit lyrics. I actually say the F word in a lyric. This song was written in response to our government and nobody in our government wanting to take responsibility for the mess that we're in. And I'm so sick of hearing these guys get on their press conferences and go through, "Oh, I didn't know anything about it, so we're going to do an investigation. We'll get to the bottom of this." And then they never get to the bottom of it. Like Benghazi, right? What were you doing, Mr. President, all night long while our people were getting murdered in Benghazi? They don't take any responsibility. So I wrote a song where Ron Keel, just blame it all on me. It's my bad. Everything, the whole state of the world, Armageddon, it's all my fault. And so they can get off the hook and just point the finger at me. So I appreciate you guys playing it. Crank it up. Here's Ron Keel, "My Bad," on the Classic Metal Show.